What is happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you had a good Easter weekend. Ate a load of chocolate. I didn't actually manage to get round to eating a load of chocolate, unfortunately, but my kids certainly did, so all good. Right, last time I saw you, or you saw me, I showed you the underside of the car and obviously highlighted all the issues I got. So this episode, honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do this episode. I will get into something. It won't just solely be me taking off Underseal. I will get into whatever, I don't know. But yeah, so I heard through the grapevine they're using a multi-tool does really well with Underseal when using a flat blade like that. So I brought my multi-tool down and I had a little go the other day and it sailed through that like a charm. Obviously you do have to be a little bit careful. If you run the corner of the blade in there, it does slightly dig into the metal, but not very bad at all. So yeah, I'll show you how that works in a minute. Now I do need to be a bit careful because I've got my good clothes on, but I weren't actually intending on doing anything on this tonight. What I was doing was dropping off my new roof. So as you can see, it needs a little bit of love. Needs a bit of rust repair up there, and also need to fill in this spot and the one on the other side. On an Escort, Mark 5 Escort, Mark 6 Escort, you have two little trims that go in there and they're just sort of bonded in. So I need to sort that out, and I also need to see what's going on underneath this body filler here and then remedy that situation, whatever that may be. And again, do a bit of repair work up here on this little edge. So with any luck, once I've got that all body worked and sorted, I am hoping to take a mould from this and then try and make a carbon Kevlar roof. Try, fingers crossed. Now, again, never worked with carbon, never done a mould, so that's all going to be new to me. Never done anything like this before, so that's all new to me, but what better way to learn than learn on the job? So I need all of you to get in the comments, because Dean's been reading up about all this carbon stuff, because obviously he wants to do a load of carbon on his Scooby. So I need you to get in the comments and, well, try and convince him to help me, really. So in the comments, nag him. Appreciate it. So what I've also got is a new steering column support bit, because in my haste I cut the one out of my Escort thinking I was going to be using the Audi steering column, but I'm not. I'm going to try and retrofit the Escort one, because then I can keep all the indicators and all the shroud and whatnot, and it all just suits the dash then. So yeah, fit that in there at some point. And thanks to Colin, who owns that Starlet over there that John's building at the moment, I've now got some more 40 by 40 box, which I can use to brace between that rollover jig and that bit of rollover jig. But like I say, I'm in my good clothes, so that won't be happening tonight. What I'm going to do now, pop you on a tripod, and like I say, I'll show you how well this multi-tool thing works. And then maybe you guys, if you ever need to do anything like this in the future, it might help you out. Right, to the tripod. Right, before I start, the only drawback to this is the noise. So if you've got a good relationship with your neighbours, be prepared to not have once you finish doing this job. So I'll try and keep the volume down a little bit, or I might just time lapse this and put some music in. So we shall see. we go. Probably a couple of seconds for you guys, but that was roughly 5 to 10 minutes worth of using the multi-tool there. So obviously managed to get all of that off, and yeah, it's not bad going, I don't think. So it's going to take a while to do the entire car, but then doing it with an angry wheel, like not wheel on the grinder, is going to take even longer and make a massive mess. So yeah, I'll let my hands sort themselves out because they're tingling a bit at the moment. Let that cool down, and then I'll crack on and do a bit more. But I will obviously need to go back round in like the little nooks and crannies with a knot wheel or something like that, just to get it all out. But that's not a bad way of getting that stuff off. Yeah, right. Get back on with it in a minute. Welcome back then, guys. So it is a really cold and wet and windy Tuesday evening now. It is already 8 o'clock, so I've only got a couple of hours down here. Don't know how much of the time lapse I'm going to show you, but that's where we're up to. So that was 2 hours I was on this last night. So more or less got that bit cleaned up, that bit cleaned up. All mainly where the fuel tank used to go. Up round here, which is exposed yet more rust, so I'm going to have to do something with that. Not quite sure yet. Managed to get a fair bit off round here and on here, and a little bit down there. So tonight it's mainly going to be the same as last night really, and I'm going to crack on and get some more of this underseal off. But whether or not I'll show you that process, I don't know, or if I'll just pick you up later on and show you where I'm up to. But I have managed to get some 30 by 30 box, so I'm going to cut that up into about 200mm pieces, weld a bit in here on both sides and same again on the front one, and then that way I can slide a bit of 40 by 40 over that with pinch bolts, and that will then with any luck stop the whole swaying motion of the jig and make me feel a little bit more at peace about the whole thing, because at the moment when you give it a bit it kind of makes the thingies go a bit wobbly, so yeah, makes me a bit nervous. Right, I'm going to get cracking with this, try and warm myself up because I'm absolutely stone cold frozen at the moment, and see where we end up shortly. Here we go, it is now almost approaching 12 o'clock at night. I ended up resorting back to the angry wheel on the grinder because it was just taking way too long with the old multi-tool, and I haven't got all year. I want to get this thing done. So I've just spent the last probably half hour or so cleaning up all of that was absolutely everywhere, and that's what we're left with. All of this driver's floor pan is more or less sort of cleaned back now. Just need to do little tiny bits here and there, cleaning the crevices, and get to all of this underside part and up in that part. I've done a bit inside where the fuel tank sits and a little bit there. So what, maybe 3 hours I've had on this so far. It is no easy feat, and I certainly won't be jumping into trying to do this again on another car. That's for damn sure. Next time it's getting dipped. I don't care how much rust there is or how little car I might get back. I'm not doing this again. Oh yeah. Right, here we go again. We're back down the workshop. It's now 7 o'clock. We've got a few hours to get on. So back to stripping Underseal. Going to give it a go with the old scraper and heat gun method this time. So that way I've tried the scraper, tried the grinder and tried the multi-tool, and I can tell you which one out of the three sucks the most. Now they're all going to suck, admittedly, but we got to do it. We got to press on. I'm not going to put you on the tripod and film any of this because you don't want to watch me taking off Undersealer. I certainly wouldn't want to watch someone take off Undersealer. But I'll pick you back up in a little bit once I've got going, and I can tell you just how bad this idea sucks as well. So I'll pick you back up in a little bit. Scrapers a fail. Absolutely sucks. So hardly managed to get anything off, even with the heat gun. Little pile of rubbish down there. So back to making an absolute mess everywhere with a grinder then. I look like a snowman again by the end of this. Right, I'm going to give it an hour and I'll pick you back up and show you what I've managed to achieve in 1 hour. Let's see how we get on. Well, I lied, it's not an hour later, it's not even the same month, so I had to take a bit of time away from this because it was taking way too long and I was losing the will to live. So far I'm up to there. This has taken me roughly 16-17 hours to get this much cleaned up, and it is horrible. It's the worst job. I've tried everything. I've tried multi-tool, as I showed you. I tried the knot wheel on the grinder, tried scraping it with some heat, and my best advice for anyone that needs to do this sort of job is pay someone else to do it because it's horrible. I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. It is the worst job I've ever done. But this is where we're up to so far. Pretty much all the underside is clear, with the exception of like down the front there and along where I'm going to be cutting out for the sills. Same again up here. Obviously surface rust everywhere. I need to go back over it because I haven't been down here for so long. Various patches have started rusting, so I haven't primed it. So I need to go back over it with a knot wheel, put some primer on. Need to do something about this area up here, which don't look too great. Haven't bothered with the spare wheel tub because I will be taking all that out at some point, so there's no point cleaning it up when I'm just going to be scrapping it anyway. Still need to do up there in the Escort wheel arch. Yeah, there's still various bits I still need to do, but I think I'll just tackle them bits as and when I need to actually work on them bits now. But today, so I can actually move forward with this project, I'm going to stick with my original plan of cutting along down the sill. We're going to remove a section so it draws this flanged bit back to here, and that way we miss all the bolts for the rear trailing arms, and it makes life easier for connecting onto my previously made inner skin, and then I've just got to make up the outer skin to go to the floor pan. And that's the plan for today, and probably for the rest of this video, to be honest. So I'm going to get on, mark all that up. Well, I'm actually going to turn the car over a little bit first so I can actually reach it, mark it up, cut it, and then we'll see where we end up shortly. Right, so that's where we're at with the outer sill. Cut about 40 or 50 mil out, I can't actually remember now. So it's obviously made it way shallower. Not the end of the world because it will have side skirts on it anyway, but at least doing this, it makes connecting onto this inner skin and making a new bit from the floor pan a little bit easier to marry up. So yeah, I'm not going to film me welding all this out fully, because obviously I need to do bits here, there and everywhere to stop the heat getting into it too much. So what I'll do is I'll pick you up once this is all fully welded and linished back, and then we can move on to connecting it to the middle skin. There we go, cut down and reattached. I've also spot welded it to the centre part, as you would have seen. Not too fussed about the aesthetics on this bit because it will be covered up with a side skirt. But now we need to move on to this area. So obviously I need to close all of this in, join up to the chassis leg, finish off my arches and redo all the Escort arch so it all comes down, all ties in nicely. So that is next on the agenda. And then we also need to tidy up that little bit there. So bring that down, cap it off there. I'm actually going to cut this off across here because the way I want my bumper is pretty much going to end here anyway, so I don't want that protruding down past it. Doesn't actually provide any support to anything or anything like that. I'll also be losing the rear tow eye mounts, and I'll make something else up for tow eyes. So yeah, let's get on with that and see where we end up. I've got about 2 more hours left down here before I need to go and pick my kids up, so let's get cracking, make up some templates and see where we land. So first up then, we've got this template. So that will go in there and fill up the void in the Audi. Then what I'll do is after that is make a new infill piece for here and a new infill piece for here, and then it'll all be tied together. So cut that out of steel and weld that bit in. Right, there we go. That's my first little infill panel to go in there. I will need to sort of tap it into certain places as and when I start welding it. So yeah, I'm going to start welding this up and away we go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to position you in here really to actually see what I'm doing. I'll do my best though. I'll see if I can rig you up on something. Right, almost forgot to do my holes for the spot welding, so we'll let this weld through primer go off on here. I've also sprayed a bit on the insides of the car where this mounts up to, and then we'll start welding it in place. There we go, that's that bit in and primered. So now what we need to do is move on to this bit. I have made a template, so bear with me. But that is what I now need to try and make, and that sits in there something like that. how on earth I'm going to make this, I'll be realistic with you, I've got no idea. Because obviously I've got a 90-degree bend to come down here, and then I also need to try and sweep it round as well. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, this one. I don't know if I'm going to end up doing it in a couple of different sections or not yet. But we'll lay this out on a bit of steel, cut out a bit of steel to that shape, and see if we can make this piece up. Right, and there we have it. That is our piece to start with. So this is probably where it's all going to go horribly wrong, and this ends up being a scrap piece. But I need to fold that edge over, and then that sits in like that. But then obviously I need to create that bend there. So that sits like that, that sits like that, and then I somehow need to fold them over like that. It's hard to show you on camera, to be honest. Let's try and hold that up. There we go. Something like that. So I need to try and create that radius, as well as bending that, and then as well as putting a bit of a concave shape like that. Yeah, this could get interesting. Let's see what happens. Well, don't know if you can quite make it out in here, but we're miles off. To get the shape of that, I mean, that's a little above my pay grade, really. I don't know how to sort of shape the metal to make that fit that gap. There's multiple bends there, and yeah, that's a little bit beyond me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that there, and then that will then fill this gap up there, and then all I've got to do is try and puzzle in around this bit somehow, some way. So I'll cut this top bit off, stitch that in, and then we'll get to figuring out this bottom bit. Right then folks, I've done a ton of fettling off camera because it's a bit of a nightmare trying to get you in and do what I need to do, but I think we're pretty much there. So obviously that's the piece I cut off, welded that in, that's all fine and dandy, and then we got the other half of it. It just made life so much easier doing it that way. So now we're at a point of where all I need to do is clamp that to that, chuck some welds in around it, and I think that bit's as good as done. So I'll pick you back up when I've done that, and I'll show you what the end result is. And there we have it. That bit is now fully welded in, apart from just down the back edges here. There's a little bit just behind here and a little bit just behind here that I need to get to when the car's flipped around and I can get a bit of a better access to it. So I mean, it would have been nice to do all that in one piece, but I'll need to learn to pick my battles, and considering that is never really going to be seen, it's hardly worth me throwing a ton of hours and material into trying to learn how to do that. So anyway, moving on, I'm going to make up a cardboard template to go in here, and then we're going to fettle that in, and then this side we can call done after that, and then we can move on to boxing in this part. So get the CAD out and we'll get cracking on with that. Right, usual story then. Cardboard template, obviously got to have the upstand on the wheel arch side so I can form the shape. So I'll have to get the stretcher out shortly, but we'll mark this up, cut it out, and go and get the stretcher. And then we got that bit in. Typically I went to town on it and overstretched it, so I've had to go over and get the old shrinker out and shrink it back down. But that is the general gist of it there. Managed to nip the end off like an idiot, so I'll have to fill that back up. So all I need to do now is take it back out, put some spot weld holes in on the flange, and once I start welding it in I'll have to tap that bit in to suit in the gap there. So yeah, make some holes in it, spray it up with some weld free primer and get this bit in. That's the last piece of this side now in. I still need to go on the other end on the flange and actually do the spot welds, but I'll do that as and when the car's in a bit more of an accessible position. The next up is going to be tackling that bit there. So I need to join that to the Escort and to the Audi, so I'll probably do a flange out this way on this side and then a flange going back that way on the Escort, so it all ties together. However, I do need to cut out some rust on here. A little bit of rust down there and there's a little bit of rust just here, so I need to repair that and then we'll make up the section for that. But it is now 10:30. I'm going to call it a night and I'll pick you back up next time. Oh, almost forgot to show you guys what I'm up to. So I've now taken off the tow eye hook bit, which is now down there, very nice and crusty, as is the rest of this car. So that's now going in the scrap bin. But what I need to do now, I have drilled out the spot welds, as you can see, all along there and along there. So what I need to do is cut across here, take that bit out, cut across here and back a little bit and cut that bit out, and then I'll replace them two sections, and then I can look into filling in this bit. Yeah, I started grinding back all of this as well just to see just how bad it actually is, and it's not terrible. I think I can actually get away with saving that. Just make a new little piece to go in there. The worst bit's all up on the inside and all up around the fuel filler neck bit there, but that's gone on the outside anyway, so I'll get a new repair panel to go on there and then I'll replace the inside bit when I'm cracking on with that. Right, let's get the grinder out. We'll cut these two bits out, make up some new steel, and then we can make that little infill bit. So we've got some templates. This is obviously the bit that come out of the car, pretty rusty and horrible, and that's the other bit. So we've got that bit that go on there. I've left a little bit extra on the side here just so it'll lap round, and then I'll make good onto the rest of that at a later date when I get into the wheel arch. And then this one is very much like that. So we'll make these up and then load them in the car. We are there. We have got the new pieces somewhat held in place. Not looking too shabby. So as and when I start welding it, I'll have to obviously adjust things and whatnot as I'm going round. But that is it. So all I need to do now is obviously weld it in place. So I'm going to get the welder set up and start tacking this in place and start fettling it in. Another bit of the jigsaw puzzle fully welded in. Actually quite happy with how that come out, to be honest. It didn't turn out too bad in the slightest. So let us know what you think. I think that was alright. So right, next up is the bit that I actually come down here to do this evening. So I need to make a return flange there to go up against the Escort, come across and then flange it across to this bit. So basically like a little S-shaped bit, if you like, but that length. So I'm going to measure all that out and I'm going to go straight to steel on that one, I think. Alright, bear with me, I'll get some measurements and we'll start cutting that bit out. I lied. Thought I'd best make a template. Alright, let's trace this out. There we go. I would say that's quite successful. I'll bust the welder out, get that welded up, and that's pretty much this side done, with the exception of sorting out all this. But I've got a panel at home, so I can cut out all this arch. I just need to get the fuel filler panel, so I'll do all that at a later date, as and when I've got the other panel. But yeah, get the welder out, get this bit buttoned up. And just like that, we are all done in this driver's rear arch finally, with the exception of this bit obviously, but I'll sort all that out another day. But all inside the arch is now completely filled in. Obviously all this bit's now done, all that bit's now done, and we're good to rock and roll. Well, obviously still need to finish the sills off. I still need to attach them to the floor because they're still not actually attached yet. It's just the outer part attached to the centre part. Now like a lot of people are going to wonder why I've actually gone to the extreme of cutting down my sills. One, it's so I can get to all these trailing arm bolts with ease, and two, I want to do a flat floor on this, so having the sills virtually in line with the floor is going to make that whole situation a whole lot easier. Yeah, actually managed to get a fair chunk done. Got all the underside, well virtually all the underside cleared off. Do need to go back round certain bits, just get some of the surface rust off and get some primer on it. Obviously repair them two holes there. And yeah, we're not too bad on the floor really, in the grand scheme of things. I've certainly seen a lot worse on the Fords. The floor that come out of this was certainly a lot worse than what I've got on it now. But on that bombshell, I'm going to call it for this episode. It's been a bit of a slog, this one. Obviously I started it back at the beginning of April, so but I had to take some time off. I'm doing all that underseal underneath there, that was driving me nuts. I think I was about 16 hours in on that, which when you work that out over a couple of weeks of a couple of hours each night, it was, yeah, it seemed never ending. But anyway, I hope to see you on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a good weekend. Peace.